All right, welcome back, baseball fans. We have another eliminating video today. We're going to be eliminating the Boston Red Sox. It was disappointing, and at the same time, it was exciting to see a comeback attempt. And if there was a team that was going to come back down 0-3, it was going to be the Red Sox. They had a marvelous season. First run of the playoffs, they played Oakland and they embarrassed the A's 4-1, and it just seemed like they'd figure out a way to get rid of the Tigers and get to the World Series, but they did not. And what you're looking at actually is last season, and these numbers don't look particularly good. This is what happened last year for Boston in the 84-71 season, where we had some 80s players combined with this era's players. Yastrzemski had a big year last year, as did Petrucelli, Mike Andrews again, Reggie Smith, Canigliaro. We see the familiar names who we saw this year. The team ERA last year was 4.19. Sparky Lau had a horrible year. Sonny Siebert was 8-4 and was their best starting pitcher. But let's get out of this and look at this year's stats, because this year was a tremendous year. 28-14 for Boston. Let's start with the offense. Yaz again with that 1970 card, 345, 1234, and 7 stolen bases. People forget he was an ace stealer. You know, that second name, Angel Bravo, I joked about these left-handed extra players the Red Sox picked up, but actually that was a nice little contribution for a guy who didn't play very much. And then the other two non-contributors were Van Kelly, who hit 274, and Bill Voss, who was just for defense. But they certainly didn't hurt the Red Sox at all, and they gave them some needed lefty bats in their lineup, and they helped the Red Sox to the best record in the American League. Reggie Smith had improved his year. Fisk's rookie year, the batting average seemed to... I thought he was hitting 300. He was hitting 300 at the All-Star break. Had some big hits against the Tigers, but I guess he dropped a little bit. It really was Petrucelli's batting average that fell. He still had the production with homer and RBI at 13 and 38, but his batting average fell. Really, George Scott and Canigliaro and Mike Andrews were the 3 regulars who were bringing the Red Sox offense down. Andrews, who you saw in the League Championship Series, had a big Game 4. And now let's move to the pitching staff, and we have to start at team ERA. 2.67 leads baseball. At the All-Star break, it was 2.3. Obviously, it was eventually going to start trending up. But if you look at the runs and earned runs, you'll see that there were 34 unearned runs allowed because of all the errors this Boston team made, which was the worst defense in all of baseball committing errors. So if you factor in the unearned runs, you could pretty much add between 3/4 of a run and a run per game to that ERA, the earned run average. So at the top of the win list is Sonny Siebert. Had another great year, 10-2, but look, he had the second worst ERA on the team, and it was a magnificent ERA of 3.06. The other two guys, Louis Tiant and Roger Morette, 2.33 and .77 ERAs. So they just ran up against a puzzling Detroit team who's a lot better than their record indicated. That's something we have seen out of the Tigers. And the Red Sox have to go back next year and try this again, run this thing back again, and hope for better luck. They're going to have the Orioles and Yankees again in that division. So let's take a look now at the 69 Red Sox stack and see what 69 cards are going to have to be renovated. And there'll be 8 of those, of course. Okay, so these are your 8 Sox And there's one incredible card in here that's going to have to go down a step, but a lot of incidentals. The Sox moving forward are here. And they're going to go 6 and 6. They're going to split it up between 6 hitters and 6 pitchers. Fisk, a catcher. George Scott at first, because he's better at first than he is at third. They have Yaz, of course, the 1970 card for one more magnificent year. With Scott playing first, it means Yaz has to play left. All right, they have John Kennedy. We talked about his acquisition in the offseason was to play third base this year, but then move over to shortstop because Petrucelli will eventually just be a third baseman. So he might be the shortstop now. And in the short term, you have Yaz Caniglero. And this Angel Bravo card, he might actually be cut, or he could be a part of a platoon in center field. They don't have a pure center fielder, assuming they do or do not keep Reggie Smith. We'll have to look at the Reggie Smith trajectory because he moves on to St. Louis at some point. Now, the 6 pitchers, fantastic news. Here they are, folks. The big 3 for the Sox this past year. Sonny Siebert, 10-2 and 106 innings with 3.06 ERA. Then Tiant was in the 2 spot. Notice the starter 9. He was pulled in Game 6 as a strategic move because you see against lefties, and the Tigers had some lefties coming up. He's not nearly as good as he is over here. Tiant finished 7-2, 233. Not a lot of people know about Roger Morette. Rogelio Morette was really good early in his career. I think he got banged up a little bit. He was on the 75 World Series team, I believe. Starter 7. Those 3 guys are coming back. Morette at 71 innings and Tiant at 179 only pitched on 4 days rest. This Cal Koons was the number 5 spot starter, but he didn't spot start much. And then you have Bill Lee, really good reliever. Gary Wagner. And then they'll have to decide what to do with Sparky Lyle. They might end up trading Sparky Lyle to the Yankees, or at least history will somehow get that transaction to happen through trade or by proxy. So let's see what the Red Sox do with these 69 guys. Okay, let's see what the Red Sox are going to do with 6 hitters and 2 pitchers from this best team in baseball in the American League, in the carryover league. They had their opportunity to get past the Orioles. They did it. They tried to march into a World Series during an era where they didn't even get to the playoffs, and they just fell short against the Tigers. Disappointing, but still, what a great year it has been for the Red Sox. Let's start looking at some players, and this is going to be disappointing here, and in practicality it should be somewhat disappointing because we know the Red Sox struggle. Matter of fact, before I look at Mike Andrews, let's just take a peek at the era here, just to get so we're on the right page as to expectations from 60, a couple years removed from the 67 series and 92 wins, and of course 68. But then, much like the Yankees, from 69 to 72, they're actually slightly better than the Yankees in that the Yankees were right around 500. The Red Sox had 85 or 87 wins with Dick Williams and Eddie Casco as the manager. But that's not going to get the job done in the division with the Orioles in it. So second and third place finishes you see by 18 and 21 games. And in 72, only half a game. They closed the gap by 72. But that was against Detroit because the Orioles struggled in 72, I believe. So that's the level of expectation we have here, an 87-win squad. They exceeded it in a big way. So let's see, look at some of the war guys. Petrucelli and Yaz, back-to-back, boom, boom, 10 and 9.5. Then your top war guys are Siebert, whose card we used, and Fisk, whose card we used. So we had all 4 war guys here in the season we just played, which is a big reason why the Red Sox did so well this year. All four of their war guys. And then 73 war guy, Bill Lee, we have his card, but we would have to improve it to acquire that top war guy for the Red Sox. Okay, now back to Mike Andrews. A second baseman from 66 to 73. There he is. Big year in 69. Played very well in the League Championship Series. Had a big game that you all saw. And he was in an All-Star game with that card. 26th in MVP voting. Okay, now the next 4 years, he's with Boston, then the White Sox, and one more year at Boston, he could do well. 71, 840 OPS. That's pretty good. But position still second base. This guy is either a keeper with the idea of possibly being traded. So we're going to keep him, $10,000, but we're going to put trade, and let's see what we can get for him. Because he only has one more year with the Red Sox, and maybe they can improve by making a trade of Andrews. Okay, the next player is Van Kelly. He was one of the free agent token players that we picked up at the end of the draft just to get a left-handed batter to come off the bench. He was a Padre with their expansion team. I'm not even going to bother to look and see if he qualifies for waivers because his stats are so bad he should be retired. So I will retire Van Kelly. But just to show you what I would do, I will go through the process of identifying if he is a waivered player. So he has to play in the following season, 1970, and Strat-O-Matic has to make his card. So look, I can at least check the Padres here by going to the superds.tripod.com/SOM rosters, Gary's Strat-O-Matic resource. Fantastic site with all the original and reprint roster sheets. So let's look at the 70 reprint for the Padres to see if that card exists as an infielder. Van Kelly. Not there. Let's look at the extra players down here for San Diego. No, they didn't make his card, which is probably a good thing. It's not a very good card anyway. So I'm correct at the moment for retiring him. All right, the next player, as we get through this, a lot of hitters to evaluate. Jerry Moses. And the Red Sox were blessed, believe it or not, with a bunch of outstanding young catchers in this era. Young and old catchers. They had Jerry Moses, they had Russ Gibson, they had Bob Montgomery, they had Carlton Fisk, and probably some more I'm leaving out. But Jerry Moses started as an 18-year-old catcher in 65, and then this is the timeline here, 69 to 73. Big year we just saw, 304. Doesn't really follow it up. His card exists. It's an okay card, and he's an all-star in 1970. Well, they don't really need him. But I don't want to outright make him a waiver guy. This is a viable player, so I'm gonna call him a keeper at 10,000 units. I'm also gonna say in the comments waiver trade, because we don't really need him if we have Fisk. I mean, we do need a backup catcher, but it doesn't have to be that guy. We could have anybody be the backup catcher. So if somebody wants to trade for Jerry Moses, we should listen to him. All right, here it is, folks. Rico Petrucelli. This is big news. The big, amazing card of Rico Petrucelli in 1969. We have to go through this here. As this card will be gone. And what a performance. His second All-Star appearance. Just look at these numbers. 32 doubles, 40 homers, 98 walks, 297, 403 on base, 589 slugging, 992. 7th in MVP voting. Wow. for shortstop, third baseman. And perhaps I may have abused the system by leaving him at shortstop all year when he's really transitioning to third base. But if you can have a 2E16 at short, you're going to have a 2E16 at short. There's no reason to switch him over to third. So that's what Boston did. The numbers are going to come down slightly, but he's still all-star quality player. Will be that way for a while. He's got a long Red Sox career left. This evaluation is pretty much to see if we need to move him over to third base or give him one more year at shortstop. So in 70, last year at short, and it's a nice year, 807 OPS. When he goes to third base, the numbers start to go down even more. So for now, we don't have to make that decision. This is a long time before the draft. He's obviously a keeper, and we can wait and look at his defensive prowess when it's time for the draft. We have John Kennedy available. Those two guys can flip between shortstop and third base. Okay. 3 hitters, 3 keepers, 3 out of 4 keepers. Great start for the Sox. Next up, Reggie Smith, whose defense really hurt. I want to see how many errors he made. I'm really curious now. This was a really bad performance for errors on a young superstar. And that's what Reggie Smith is, folks. He's a superstar. And look at the years. 300. 2 years he didn't hit 300. It goes on to St. Louis. It, of course, goes on to L.A. Just a superstar. Fell a little bit short of a Hall of Fame career. And, of course, injuries derailed him. Ended up with 2,000 hits. The very great Reggie Smith. Switch hitter extraordinaire. So, that 69 card, we're going to check his fielding while I have a chance here. I'm very curious as to the number of errors he would have made. So here we are. Oh my goodness, 14 errors. 14 errors in center field, none in left. That's just, yeah. So the way Strat does this is they prorate, the formula for E-rating is they prorate the innings played as if the guy would have played 169 innings for 162 games. And in this particular case, he didn't play 162, played 159 games. So that's why the 14 errors were turned into 16 errors. It was close, but he didn't quite get an innings. Looking at the wrong one here. Yeah, there it is. 136 games, 1,192 innings. So that 14 errors is going to go to 16 or 17. Now on the 71 card, this 14 error might actually be 14 because it's 159. So if we see the 1971 card, it'll probably be E14. But 1969, those 14 errors in 136 games will make you the worst rating, which is E16. All right, let's go back to picking up his career. He doesn't go to St. Louis to 74, so Boston's going to pick him up. And then they have, A57. All the years are good. So we're not going to do too much more looking at Reggie Smith. We know he's a keeper. And this is about picking a year. All right, next guy, Bill Voss, a defensive corner guy brought in from the Angels in the token round of the draft, just to caddy for Rico Petrucelli. Get 261 with this card. In 70, if he's still good defensively, and in 71, his career should continue. So let's take a look. If with the Angels in 70, he should be. Let's take a peek though. Voss. And he is. So he qualifies for waivers because he has a card in 1970. So we will put him on waivers so he can find a job anywhere in the league. Next, the two pitchers. The first of the two is Mike Nagy, the number 4 starter. They don't need him anymore, really. He was a rookie in '69 for the Sox, unless he improves substantially. And the answer is he doesn't improve substantially. He does qualify for waivers on the Red Sox. And this is where you got to be picky if you're the Red Sox. You've got to say, hey, I know he's our guy, but I think we could shop around. I mean, we got the big three. We got Siebert, Tiant, and Morette. Let's not settle for a 6-5, 4.48 ERA Mike Nagy. Let's put him on waivers. He'll stick around. Any pitcher with 128 innings, they make a Strat-O-Matic card, so I don't have to look at the other thing. I know his card will be around, but we're going to put him on waivers, which leaves us with Sparky Lyle and the infamous trade with Danny Cater, which I don't think we are there yet. Do we have a Red Sox hat in any of these hats? No, 2 Yankee hats. Okay. We're not quite at the infamous trade. That doesn't happen until 72. So the question is, what does Boston do in 70, and 71, 72, and 73? You know, frankly, he's not really good again until he goes to the Yankees. This is a tough call here. Well, in 69, in 70, he does have at least, we got to make sure he has a 70 and 71 Boston card. Let's look at 70 first. All right, he's got a 70 Boston card. How about a 71 because he's better in 71? So we're going to look at 71 original. And he's there too. Okay, so there's 2 Boston cards. So again, that's going to be a keeper. And again, I'm going to put trade exclamation point here because this is where the Yankees have to step up to the plate. And I don't think the 2 teams will trade with each other. I think what I might do is make it a trade by proxy. So if Danny Cater goes to Boston and Lyle goes to the Yankees, I might have a 3rd team in between. So Lyle would go from Boston to the 3rd team. The 3rd team would send Lyle to the Yankees. Cater would go to the 3rd team, and the Red Sox would get somebody better than Danny Cater, who they really don't need. If they have George Scott at first and Yaz at left field and first, they should be able to create a trade where they improve the haul from Danny Cater to something more substantial. So that's it tonight from eliminating the Red Sox. Ton of great options moving forward. The era isn't kind to them, but the way the carryover league is set up, the Red Sox are in a great position because the premise of a player being good every 4 years, you know Boston's offense is great every year because of Fenway Park. So they're always going to have great hitters every year you just pick. All you need is for a pitcher to be good once every 4 years. And we proved this with Siebert, Tiant, and Morette. We got their best years. It worked out this year. Moving forward, it should still be successful. Whether it's as successful as it just was will remain to be seen, as the Orioles will have, Baltimore Orioles are still in their heyday, and they'll have a lot to say about what happens in the American League East. All right, thanks for checking out the elimination video. We'll see you next time.